I never imagined I'd end up in a tech-fueled standoff with my neighborhood's HOA president. But here we are. My name's Alex, and I moved into Sycamore Heights about 8 months ago. At first, the place seemed ideal. Quiet streets, manicured lawns, and mostly pleasant neighbors. But I hadn't accounted for Karen Wilcox, the unofficial queen of the Homeowners Association. From the moment I moved in, Karen had her sights set on my property. Her attention intensified when I installed a sleek smart doorbell camera. One afternoon, as I was grabbing the mail, she approached with a tight smile and a clipboard in hand. "That doorbell camera is unsightly and violates Section 7.3 of the neighborhood bylaws," she snapped, her tone clipped. I calmly explained that the rule only applied to permanent changes affecting the exterior appearance of the home, and my compact, modern doorbell hardly qualified. Her expression hardened, and her face flushed a deep red as she tapped her manicured nails on her clipboard. "We'll see about that," she muttered, before turning on her heel and walking away in her ever-present beige pumps. I figured that was the end of it. I was wrong. Over the next few weeks, I received a string of increasingly aggressive notices citing all kinds of supposed violations. One claimed my grass was a 1/4 inch too tall. Another criticized the paint on my window trim. Apparently eggshell white wasn't acceptable because the HOA mandated pure white. Every notice bore Karen's signature and a thinly veiled threat of fines. I responded to each one respectfully and addressed the issues, but rather than diffusing the tension, it only seemed to annoy her more. Then things got weird. My smart home system began acting up. At first, it was little things. My thermostat would jump to 80 degrees while I was away, or the lights would flicker on in the middle of the night. I chalked it up to technical glitches, until my security system started randomly disarming itself. That's when I got concerned. I work in cybersecurity, so I ran a full diagnostic on my home network. What I found was alarming. Someone had been accessing my system remotely, and they weren't very good at hiding their tracks. The intrusion was coming from within our neighborhood's shared network. So I set a trap, a honeypot to catch whoever was tampering with my system. It didn't take long. The intruder took the bait, and I traced the IP address straight to a familiar location, Karen Wilcox's home office. I was stunned. The president of the HOA had been actively hacking into my smart home devices, apparently as a petty form of revenge over my doorbell camera. I documented everything. The unauthorized logins, timestamps, system changes, everything. I even installed a few extra cameras, one of which caught Karen parked across the street in her car, laptop open, clearly trying to connect to my network again. Rather than confronting her directly, I decided to play it smart. I reached out to a lawyer friend who specializes in cybersecurity law. After reviewing my evidence, she confirmed what I already feared. "This isn't just a neighborhood dispute," she told me. "What she's done likely falls under federal criminal hacking statutes, specifically the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act." Armed with that information, I made sure to attend the next HOA meeting. Karen was in full command that evening, standing confidently at the front of the community center in her signature beige blazer and coral blouse. She was busy pitching a new bylaw, one that would ban what she called unsightly smart devices. "Technology on home exteriors is threatening the character of our neighborhood," Karen declared, lifting her chin with theatrical pride. "Smart doorbells, security cameras, solar panels. These so-called modern conveniences destroy the aesthetic we've worked so hard to preserve." She paused for dramatic effect, clearly expecting nods of agreement. Instead, a few people exchanged uncertain glances. When the floor opened for comments, I raised my hand. Karen's expression tightened the moment she spotted me, but she gave a curt nod. "I have some concerns regarding privacy and security in our neighborhood." I began calmly. "In particular, I'm troubled by the possibility of unauthorized access to private home networks and systems." Karen's posture stiffened, but she kept her voice even. "That hardly seems like an HOA issue," she said flatly. "Maybe you should just improve your Wi-Fi security." I smiled. Excellent advice. As it happens, securing networks is part of what I do for a living. And recently, I had to look into some disturbing breaches into my own smart home system. I turned to address the rest of the room. "Someone has been remotely tampering with my thermostat, lights, even my home security system. Aside from being incredibly invasive, it's a potential safety risk. There was a ripple of murmurs. Neighbors shifted in their seats, clearly uneasy. The good news, I continued, is that I was able to trace those digital intrusions directly back to their origin. I let that hang in the air for a moment, my eyes settling on Karen. Her fingers drummed anxiously against the podium. What's especially noteworthy, I added, is that this sort of unauthorized access violates federal law under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Penalties can include up to 10 years in prison. Karen's face drained of color. "This is absurd," she said with a forced laugh. "You can't just walk in here and throw around baseless accusations." "I haven't named anyone," I replied, still calm. "But I do have documentation, IP logs, timestamps, even surveillance footage. All of it's been reviewed by my attorney and submitted to the authorities." At that exact moment, there was a knock on the community center door. 2 uniformed police officers stepped inside, scanning the room. One of them spoke firmly. "Karen Wilcox?" She froze. The room held its collective breath. What happened next felt like something out of a courtroom drama. Karen tried to play it off, claiming she'd simply been checking on my system to ensure compliance with HOA rules. The officers weren't buying it. When they mentioned a warrant had been issued to search her electronic devices based on the digital evidence I'd submitted, Karen completely lost her composure. "Do you know who I am?" she snapped, her voice rising in panic. "I'm the president of this HOA. I uphold property values. I protect this neighborhood from chaos." She waved her binder in my direction. "He's the one violating bylaws with his ugly gadgets." The officers remained calm and professional. "Ma'am, HOA bylaws don't override federal laws. Unauthorized access to a private computer system is a serious offense." In the back of the room, her husband, who had been quietly observing, finally stood up. His face was pale. "Karen, stop talking," he said, voice low and urgent. But she didn't listen. "I did it for the community," she shouted as they began reading her Miranda rights. The room was silent, all eyes on Karen as she clutched her binder and was escorted out of the building. 2 weeks later, I received a formal update from the district attorney's office. Karen Wilcox was officially facing multiple criminal charges. Karen was eventually charged with multiple counts of unauthorized computer access. According to the district attorney's office, she'd likely have to accept a plea deal if she wanted to avoid serious jail time. The terms included mandatory community service, a 5-figure fine, and several years of probation. She was also unanimously removed from the HOA board during an emergency session. Just like that, her reign over Sycamore Heights came to an unceremonious end. But the real cherry on top? A few weeks later, I spotted her at the local grocery store. She was wearing oversized sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat, clearly trying to go incognito. I almost didn't recognize her. Almost. Our eyes met across the produce section. In that instant, her expression twisted into a mix of shame, frustration, and raw embarrassment. Without a word, she turned, left her half-filled shopping cart between the lettuce and tomatoes, and hurried out the store. I stood there for a moment, then reached out and picked the ripest avocado I could find. My smart home system had been running perfectly ever since.